Good morning, everyone. You know, it's never fun to talk about, but if you or someone you love is battling an addiction, talking is actually the first step, and it could end up saving a life. Greg Hannley, Alex Draghici, and Daniel Baldwin with Soba Recovery are back. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, guys.
You wear Mexico well.
We were. It was so fun. Next time, y'all need to come along.
Yeah,
it was beautiful. Do I look more tanned at all?
You're totally tan.
Okay, good.
You
It
can
worked.
never look more beautiful.
Oh, Daniel.
I don't know if
Favorite
Daniel's
Baldwin.
allowed in Mexico.
Thanks, guys. He says he doesn't know if you're allowed in
No, the
Mexico.
10-year ban has ended.
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good. Okay, I want to start with talking about some trending topics like we always do. And we did a little research. We found some interesting articles. Some of these things we've talked about before, but this one I thought was interesting because there's an article out from the Washington Post that says women are increasingly at risk of addiction. In other words, I guess more women are becoming addicted than in the past. First of all, do you agree with that? Do you see that? And if it's a yes, what do you think, or what are the causes in your mind?
Well, I think that just environment has changed probably over the last 20 years where when you're trying to juggle the amount of things that women are these days, there's a lot of pressure on them. So I have a lot of times I'll be doing an intake with a mom, you know, maybe 40 plus, and I tell them it's kind of like in the old days when the computers would get jammed up. So they've been just stacking things, taking care of everybody their whole life.
And not themselves.
Yeah, and they need to reset it. And so taking a little time to actually let somebody care for you, lets them reset, and it's kind of like clearing it and then being able to move on, but we see a lot.
That's interesting, and we've talked before about the fact that women and moms and a lot of women at home, when it comes to the prescription drugs, that there's been an increase in that too.
Sure.
Significant increase.
Yeah, the people are reaching for a pill for different things that are, and it's the same thing that I was just saying is with the pressures these days of trying to go to work, take care of your family,
doing all of it, yeah.
Be at school, watching your kids, dealing with it, you know, it becomes easy to take a pill and a drink, and before you know it, before you know it, you're stuck.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's kind of like, you know, a lot of moms can relate to this. So your kid comes home from school and says, wow, there's a lot of kids that are sick. And then within a week, every kid is sick and everyone in your house is sick. Well, it's an infectious, contagious disease, and it's spreading. And that's why I think we're seeing the numbers going. It's becoming socially acceptable to reach to your medicine cabinet and take a pill for the answer. So, you know, this disease is doing exactly what Greg and Alex have been telling us now for years. It's spreading.
We also, okay, so you're saying it's spreading, but at the same time, I feel like people are talking about it more. I mean, you guys are here once a month, we're talking about it. People, I think, are beginning to feel like it's okay to talk about it. And this leads me into our next story, which is an article out of the Auburn Journal, where there's a woman on here that says one of the biggest things we need to do is change society's stigma around addiction and the word addict, so that people feel like it's okay to come out and say, I have a problem. She also says that when people tell her, I have an addictive personality, she says, no, you don't. Addiction is a serious brain disorder. And you've said before, it's like if someone has a disease or cancer, you take them to the hospital. It's a disease.
I think part of the stigma is that we used to see a lot of this as an inner city Skid Row kind of thing. Now it's way out into the affluent suburbs. It's in every high school. And I think people are being forced to look at it now because it's become so prevalent.
Yeah.
Well, and there's different behaviors too, you know, and they're defined differently. So when people talk about an addict, they're usually talking about drugs. But behaviors can be people who clean their house like nuts, or they work all the time, or they're chronically involved in other things. And it's just kind of like the stigma with the word addict is because it's related to drugs almost. But there's food, you know, there's so many different, if you look in the 12-step groups, there's a letter from any different kind of thing that you could imagine. Cigarettes, You know, they have.
I saw the nachos coming in here, and that's the only thing I can think about.
Nachos. Well, me too. All right, guys. Well, y'all stick around, and everyone, please stick around. We're going to talk more with the handsome gentleman from Soba when we come back. And they do look delicious, by the way.
No one is perfect. We all have our inner struggles. It may be alcohol, drug, or any type of addiction. Soba Recovery Center is here to offer free help. You can get the help and free information by calling right now from the privacy of your own home. Don't let alcohol, drug, or any addiction ruin your life. If you or a loved one have alcohol, drug, or any addiction, get help by calling right now. Soba Recovery Center. Most private insurance accepted.
And welcome back. We are here with Soba Recovery, and I want to get straight to Greg's publication, which is Recovery Today. And in the latest issue, I believe we have the cover. You have a cover story or an interview with Patrick Kennedy. And it's a very special story.
Yeah, we got to talk to him. Daniel and I and Rob got to talk to him for almost an hour. And it was kind of cool because my mom, who's 95, was sitting next to me, and I'm going, I'm talking to a Kennedy, right?
Yeah, kind of cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. But he's such a huge advocate for recovery, and he's the one that actually wrote the parity law saying that mental health by insurance companies needs to be treated and paid for the same as surgical and medical. So we had a real long discussion with him about what to do, and he said that this is a civil rights issue, and that the people need to get treated the same. And he was just full of information. He was inspiring, and he talks about and the thing that he said too is that this needs to not be a secret in a church basement. Right. That people need to talk about it. But he's what a good guy.
Yeah. And so that's what y'all are doing.
Now.
I mean, you are helping us talk about it. We talk about it every month, and I love that. I'm hoping that someone watching right now feels like they can open up, and they can talk about it, and they can call you at Soba if.
Well, that's where the help starts, and it's okay just to call in and have a conversation and ask questions or hit us up on Facebook. I have a lot of people after the show that just direct message and ask questions, and I'm happy to talk to them and just share some ideas. Alex always says,
starts with the phone call. Yeah, starts with the phone call. Yeah.
And they can call at any point, Soba Texas, 24/7.
Yeah.
Someone will answer.
Yep.
There's also an article in this Recovery Today that focuses and talks about relationship killers and anger and resentment. And we were talking about this during the break. So let's say you have a family, someone goes into treatment, they come back, and there's anger and resentment, but on both sides, right? From the person who is in treatment, but also maybe the family. How do you deal with those types of issues when someone comes back from recovery? You said, you're expecting a parade. You want everyone to be so excited, but sometimes they're not real happy.
Well, it goes both ways. When I was in treatment, they made it really clear and important that this affected everybody equally. And so work needs to be done at home, whether it's going to a 12-step meeting and getting some support as a loved one, or going to counseling and kind of getting through it, because there's a lot of things the family is affected and becomes as sick as the addict. And so I know I came back in and expected it to be all kumbaya, right. And it wasn't all kumbaya. I had made a lot of people pretty upset, and I had to work through it. Plus, in the program, resentments, I had to also realize that I didn't have room in my heart for peace and happiness if I was full of resentments. Yeah. So you got to work through that stuff, and it takes everybody to work, or it doesn't work.
Yeah, but it's normal. I guess you want people to know that it's normal after treatment to come back and have these issues.
Well, it's actually quite justified. I mean, for me, I went away, and also it's very common for an addict to fail multiple times at their sobriety. So for me, it was kind of the boy who cried wolf. I got out again, stayed even longer, and they were like, holding their breath, going, okay, well, how long? You know, when's
Wait
this
for
going
the
to
other shoe
happen?
to
Or as
drop.
soon as any even minor normal thing would happen, if my reaction to it was in any way similar, just as a human being, to what it was before, now, he's doing something, you know. So you're kind of cringing when the person comes back in the door, because if the last 5 times I saw you, I punched you in the face,
Yeah, it could be a problem. Right.
you walk up to
yeah.
the person like this with your hands up.
Well,
I
and
feel a little differently.
people a lot of times in the house have things that are stolen from them, so they lock them up, and there's trust issues. Or I know every time I left the house, it would be, people would wonder if I would ever come back. And
we gonna
so,
see 'em again?
yeah, because I would go to pick up something for a barbecue and then come back for 2 days.
Right.
So,
Like, well, never got that potato salad.
yeah,
but
it takes a little
Yeah.
while for people to kind of get
trust.
used to you again. Yeah,
Yeah.
to kind of.
The real
but,
you.
But we get clean and we go, what?
What'd I do?
We're clean. You know, everything
You should
needs
be
to be just
happy.
reset. And
Yeah.
and now it takes a minute for people to regain that trust.
That makes perfect sense. And you guys stick around. We have our viewer questions we're going to get to. We have so many questions, we had to narrow it down. So we will answer your questions after the break. Welcome back, everyone. We are here with Soba Recovery, and I want to get straight to our viewer questions. We have so many, you guys. And the first one is from Lauren. She says, a family member of mine who has been an addict in the past recently went through a traumatic experience. How do I help them stay clean through this hard time?
A lot of support.
What kind of support? I mean, how do
Well,
you give them that support?
You make sure they're going to meetings and they're talking about what's going on, and they're continuing. Usually when people fall off, and especially when something bad happens, they quit interacting with their support group that they have. And these problems, addiction or alcoholism or whatever it is, it's bigger than us individually. And so, although what we're seeing is that I'm more likely to drink because my shoelace broke than something really bad happened.
So anything could trigger it. You're saying.
Yeah, when you're in the mix of recovery, when something happens, you tend to have everybody just gather around you and kind of keep an eye. When you say.
Yeah, I think that the most important thing is when you look at life on life's terms, take out the word addiction. What would you do, God forbid, I've lost my father. My mother's 87 years old, and someday I'm going to get that phone call. Well, what would you do, non-addict, if you lost a significant other? You would go see the person, you would pray together, you would talk about it, you'd go out to lunch and communicate with each other. It's exactly the same. It's life. You know, life is going to come at you no matter what. The answer is you don't want to turn to your addiction or whatever it is that your out is. You know, when it comes to you have to be able to communicate. Most addicts are not great in the beginning of communicating. That's part of their problem.
That
They bottle
takes
it
a
up.
while, huh?
For sure.
The next question we have is from Alexis, and she says, at Soba, what type of help is available for families? She wanted to know if you have some type of family program.
Well, it actually depends on if they're talking about the whole family has an addiction problem, because Greg has actually treated entire families, maybe starting with one.
Okay.
Or
what if
if
it's
they're
maybe
asking about,
helping someone as a family?
Well, the entire program is actually a family program. So if somebody comes in, they're staying in communication if the client that's in is okay with that, if they sign the releases to speak with the parents. But they give updates to the family, and the family can come and visit. They do sessions with the entire family.
Okay.
So
Yeah, they set
So
up
it is a
family
family program.
counseling
Yeah.
for sure, and just kind of give information because it affected everybody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, sure.
sometimes the first time people can be in a room together is with the therapist at the treatment center. And
Being in charge and helping the
Yeah.
communication.
That was one of the things that roped me into being of service so much with Greg and Alex was I can remember exactly the woman. I don't remember her name, but I was up at Soba Malibu, and I'll never forget that feeling watching his face, Greg's, when this woman walked up. It was like 90 days in for her daughter, and she walked up to him, and she was you know, like jelly, you know, like Jello. She looked at Greg and she went, "Thank you so much for giving me my daughter back," you know, and I thought, I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this was a woman who, this kid terrorized their family for a long, long time. And the
He's a
mom,
stranger.
yeah, the mom worrying about when's that phone call going to come, that someone shot her kid or she OD'd. And that look on her face, looking at Greg saying, "Thank you so much." It was really compelling for me.
Well, we sat with the mom and her kid and a couple others for an hour, just the day that we got here. And, you know, any interaction is going to be helpful. And it was it was interesting, and it always is, watching the dynamic of people kind of getting used to it, because sometimes the kids are so upset that the parents were actually trying to save their life or interfering, getting in between them and their drugs.
Well, you had that too. You were angry with the person who.
Oh yeah,
Angry
yeah.
beyond.
I didn't
They
realize.
just loved you. They just wanted you to live.
Yeah, the guy that saved my life. I just, and it took me almost a year to realize that he was the only one that had enough guts to step up and go, "I'm not going to sit here and watch you kill yourself."
I love you enough to let you hate me
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
I love you enough to let you hate me. And we have another question, actually just in from Pamela on Facebook, and she says, addiction is a family disease, and she asked also, do you have a family program, or do you refer to a Narcotics Anonymous family group? And you're saying we do.
Well, yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah.
So whether it's Narcotics Anonymous family group or Al-Anon or one of those support groups, it's hugely important for the family members to go. So they have their support with people who have gone through it too. And they get a good understanding and can ask questions on, how do I deal with this person that's at my house now? Because it's
Right.
different.
I don't know them anymore.
Yeah.
This is like
Or
a
I'm
stranger.
just super
It goes
angry
back
with
to
them.
the
You
whole
know?
anger and resentment that we were talking about. Trying to
Yeah.
discuss it before they go home. And
So they know what to expect or
Yep.
what could happen. Another question we got, someone wanted to know, is the program short-term or long-term? In general, I know it's long-term. You prefer
10 out of 10, we
long-term.
always prefer
28 days
long-term.
doesn't work.
Yeah, long-term treatment is the only thing that works. And Governor Christie just made a law in New Jersey where people have to get 6 months of treatment if
great.
they ask for it.
That's great.
It's it doesn't matter where you go or what kind of treatment that you're getting, bar none. It's the success rate of going in is directly related to length of time. And it doesn't mean length of time in inpatient or length of time, but it is some type of interaction with your recovery and your support group, because my people I was in treatment with became my support group when I was out of treatment.
Yeah.
We hung out, went to meetings, did stuff, and and if somebody derailed, we were all, right there to pick them back up again.
Yeah. All right, well, we are going to come back after a short break, and we are going to let our viewers know what they can do today if they think they need help or they have someone they love who they believe needs help. And we're going to tell you exactly what you can do after the break. Glad we got to that short-term or long-term. And welcome back. We are back with Soba Recovery, and we're going to get to one more viewer question really quickly here. This is off of Facebook, and it says, does the program teach a recovering person sufficient life skills to support a sober life?
So yes.
That would be a yes.
Initially, when you're coming in, there's medical and clinical things that are going on, and it transitions into vocational. So a lot of people, besides their social relationships that have been really stopped, what they're going to do after they get out, and there's a lot of things that go on in between, like getting your driver's license right, or do you have a court issue, or do you have family issues, or some of the young people we get, the only thing they know how to do is get high. So are you going to go to school to become a drug counselor because you know a lot about it, or whatever it is? So it's got to go all the way into vocational, because if you stick somebody out of treatment and they don't know what to do with themselves, sooner or later they're going to be in a problem.
they help with everything from resumes, helping with GED,
That's awesome.
how to get a job, how to go back to school.
One of my favorite things at the Malibu facility was, I remember walking up one day and I said, what does Mark teach them? He's teaching them how to have a barbecue. And I looked and I went, but think about it. Okay, how many people are coming?
Yeah.
How much money do you have to do the barbecue? How many waters do you need? You're going to buy this. You need the briquettes. And you know, honestly, they didn't know.
Well, yeah,
they didn't know how to plan that and how to set it up. And you know, it was quite interesting to watch how joyful it was for them to successfully
Everybody
throw a barbecue.
volunteered to be the barbecue group.
That's great.
I'll do the barbecue group.
gonna learn how to
Doug
do
did it
that.
for a while. I was like, I just want to come and eat.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I'm glad that y'all do that, Greg. And again, if there is somebody watching right now who they think they have an addiction, or someone they love, they can call you right now. That's the first thing they need to do is just pick up the phone, right?
Pick up the phone, yeah, it starts the phone call. We'll also be out there most of the day, so if somebody
Okay.
wants to just come tour, they
Soba
can
Texas.
run into all of us out there.
Or hit any of us on Facebook.
You can do that
Too.
as well.
For sure.
Yeah, we get a lot of direct messages that we'll respond to.
I love that
Especially
y'all are
Dan,
always
you'll hit it the
available.
most.
Yeah.
Y'all are
Yeah.
the best.
You can message me on Facebook, and I promise you, I'm going to call you or message you back and help you.
All right, guys. Well, again, all of the information for Soba Texas is on your screen. You can call them. Call them today. You can always go online, or you can message any of them on Facebook. Guys, thank you. It's always so good to see you.
Good to see
Thanks
you.
for
too,
having
Carl.
us.
It's good.
No one is perfect. We all have our inner struggles. It may be alcohol, drug, or any type of addiction. Soba Recovery Center is here to offer free help. You can get the help and free information by calling right now from the privacy of your own home. Don't let alcohol, drug, or any addiction ruin your life. If you or a loved one have alcohol, drug, or any addiction, get help by calling right now. Soba Recovery Center. Most private insurance accepted.